morning and welcome to our workshop on beating the summer academic loss. My name is Marisa Adams. I am the Director of Curriculum for Lumos Learning. I will be serving as one of our facilitators for the time together today. It's my pleasure to also introduce our other facilitator, Ms. Jennifer Torres. She is the Marketing Director here at Lumos Learning and is excited to join us today as well. Before we get started, I have a few housekeeping tasks to mention. During the presentation, all lines will be muted. This will allow others the best opportunity to hear the presentation. However, we want active participation today. So at times we might unmute the lines so you can offer a response to a question, and at any point in the presentation, you can type a question into the chat or use the raise the hand feature. At the end of the presentation, we will have some time for questions and answers, and at that time, Ms. Torres and I will answer as many questions as possible. Secondly, this presentation will be videotaped, archived, and used with other parents at later dates. So this might include all of your answers, questions, and comments. And if there are not any questions at this time, we'd like to go ahead and begin.
Good morning. As Mrs. Adams said, we are excited that you're joining us today as we spend some time discussing summer academic learning loss. Throughout this webinar, we will be looking at what exactly the summer slide is, explore some examples how you can help your child avoid the summer slide, and then close with some overall practical tips you can follow.
So let's begin to explore the summer slide and see what you might be able to do this summer.
Studies show that if students take a standardized test at the end of the school year and then repeat that test when they return in the fall, they would lose about 4 to 6 weeks of learning. In other words, they would miss more questions in the fall than they would in the spring. This loss is commonly referred to as the summer slide. Let's look at some other statistics of how this slide can affect your children.
As we mentioned a moment ago, standardized testing scores typically drop by an average of 1 month, which causes teachers to spend at least the first 4 to 5 weeks on average reteaching critical material in the fall. In terms of math, students typically lose an average of 2.5 months of skills, and when reading and math losses are combined, it averages 3 months. And it may even be lower for students in lower income homes. And on average, the 3 areas students will typically lose ground in are spelling, vocabulary and reading, and mathematics. What exactly does all of this mean for your child? Well, like anything, academics are something that require practice, and if you do not use them regularly, you run the risk of losing them. So it is imperative your children work to keep their minds sharp over the summer. But this does not always have to take the form of typical schooling. There are many ways to keep your children engaged over the summer months. We're going to take a look at some of them.
Your best source of information is your child's school. Begin with a conversation with your child's teacher. Tell him you are interested in working on some academics over the summer and ask him what suggestions he may have. Be sure to ask about any areas your child may be struggling in and for a list of books to read over the summer. Also, talk to your child's counselor. She may have recommendations of local summer activities that will relate back to the schools and what your child needs to know. Finally, ask the front office staff for any information on currently existing after-school programs. The counselor may also be able to provide this. Although after-school programs may end shortly, the organizations running them will often have information on summer camps. Many of these are often free or at a very low cost to you and your family.
Next, scour your local area for free or low-cost activities and events. Most museums will have dollar days of some kind where you can get money off admission for going a certain day of the week or at a certain time. Zoos will often do the same thing. Take a lunch to the park and eat outside, talking about the leaves, the flowers, or anything else you can find there that interests your child. Your child can pick one favorite thing and research it. Attend concerts or shows put on by local artists, musicians, or other vendors. Because many of our audience members today were from New Jersey and Colorado, I included 2 links here of places to find free activities. One that was funnewjersey.com and the other from colorado.com. But truly, you can simply do a search for free activities for children in blank and add your area there.
There are many, many other options available. You just have to explore and find them. The key here is to engage your children. Have them look online with you or search the local newspapers, magazines. Allow them to plan the itinerary or work with you on it, and when they get back, have them write a journal about the activity. Or, even better, have them write a letter or email to a family member about what they did. Along with the idea of finding free events, it's also important to take advantage of any local memberships. These will often give you additional discounts or allow you to take advantage of free opportunities. But by far, one of the most important and most of the time free memberships is the local library. Your library card and a card in your child's name gives wonderful access to a world of resources. Children can explore places and learn about people they never have ever heard of before, can use the internet in a secure environment if you do not have regular access at home, and even better, they can do it with friends. But libraries are so much more. In addition to books, you can check out movies, magazines, and other extra things for free. And libraries often have summer programs your children can sign up for or attend, including reading contests, meet the author days, crafts, and other fun, engaging activities.
Another way you can encourage summer learning is to go shopping. While unconventional maybe, it can truly be one of the best ways to reach a child and engage them, keeping them learning without them even knowing they're really doing it. And you can accomplish some needed chores at the same time, so it's a win-win for all involved. First, consider shopping at a grocery store. Have your child write the list while you give them the words, and then have them look for those items in the store. Next, have them keep the cost tally and see if they can determine when you get close to meeting your budget. For older students, you can have them try and calculate the sales tax before the cashier does. And don't be afraid to make it a contest among siblings or even between your child and yourself. And another fun place to shop with your children is the local home improvement or gardening store. Decide on an area to plant some new bushes, or maybe a small home project you can work on together. Again, have your child make the list, maybe even researching which plants will be the best or which way to build a project. Have them calculate how many plants can go in that area or how many of each type of supply will be needed. In each of these scenarios, your children will be working on those key areas of spelling, vocabulary reading, and math.
And after you shop, it will be the perfect time to put those groceries to use. The kitchen can be one of the best places to keep students engaged academically. First, the kitchen is the best place to try something new. Have your child research a new food, a fruit, a vegetable, or maybe even find a recipe. This is a great place to talk about what makes food a healthy choice and what doesn't. Once they find a new food or recipe, have them read what they find out loud. Not only will this encourage them to read, it will help build their reading fluency. You can also have them spell the ingredients as they measure them out, or you talk about them. Also, talk about fractions and give them examples of what they mean. For example, let them use the quarter cup 4 times to fill a cup and begin to get a visualization of what 1/4 means. Be creative and make word problems. If the recipe calls for a 1/3 cup of butter, ask your child how much butter would be used if you doubled the recipe. And while you're trying something new, read and learn about different cultures and ethnicities and try some new recipes from those geographical regions.
Now let's move on to some key ideas that may be even more unconventional, but ones that work when done correctly and really help hone in on the fact that learning does not have to be in pencil and paper format. The first is watching TV. Although television often has a bad reputation of numbing the brain and making students lose valuable processing skills, it truly can be a wonderful tool when used appropriately. Let's look at sporting events, for example. During a sporting event, Students may be able to review statistics and make predictions for the event. They will have to defend their decisions to you in a logical manner, keeping them and you engaged. And you can also make word problems based off those statistics. For example, you might ask your child how many home runs a player will need to beat their current record. But there are also many other activities that can occur outside of sporting events. Examples of these are documentaries, shows on the History Channel, Discovery Channel, and even home and garden type channels. The key here is to let your child pick something they are interested in and watch it with them. First, you might be surprised to learn a few new interests you never knew your child had. And second, you can spend quite a bit of time learning new things together. Research to see if what the show portrays is accurate. Let your child read a new book about something you watched, or send an email to a relative encouraging them to read and write. A simple TV show about ancient pyramids of Egypt can turn into a trip to the library, creating a model, researching online together, or many other extensions.
Many of the same activities can also occur through watching movies. Although movies may often have the same reputation as television in that it can be a waste of time, there are numerous movies that can be extremely thought-provoking. One of the best things to do during the summer is have a family movie night, but you have to make sure and leave time, even if it is the next day, to debrief the movie. Talk about what the movie says versus what happened in history. Discuss why the science fiction movie may or may not be possible. And movies don't all have to be historical or quote-unquote learning in nature. They can also be book-based. Have your child read the book and watch the movie. Maybe even read the book with your child or at the same time as them. Then you can both compare the book to the movie and look for similarities and differences. Some of the movies shown here are thought-provoking, historical, or have a book that was also written. Just make sure and do your homework to decide on a movie that is age-appropriate. Two of the best resources for that are IMDb, the Internet Movie Database, and commonsensemedia.org.
Another great way to keep kids engaged and spend time together as a family is a family game night. Again, the key here is to keep them engaged in more than just learning. Maybe have a rotating schedule where the person who picks the game is also responsible for making the snack for the night. And to bring things full circle, you can take advantage of this and go grocery shopping for the snacks, following the guidelines we mentioned earlier. When searching for games, your goal will be to find ones that are fun and build skills. Scrabble, for example, focuses on spelling and vocabulary. Monopoly and Uno focus on math skills and strategy. And Battleship and Quirkle focus on strategy at a higher level. Quirkle is actually one of my family's most favorite games for our family game night. It's my 10-year-old daughter's favorite game and has been for the past several years. The games shown here are certainly not the only ones considered good, but are very representative of some of the most common ones and games that kids love. But don't be afraid to search out low-cost ways to find games. Garage sales, resale shops, even antique shops regularly sell games at a lower price and can be a great way to expose your child to games no longer as common, but just as fun.
But games do not have to be limited to ones that can be played on a board. Don't overlook your Wii, Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox, or other gaming consoles. A simple search for educational video games lists numerous results. These games often challenge the way kids think and encourage critical thinking, strategy, and problem-solving skills. Many of them also focus on reading as well as math skills. The key to using video games is to choose the right ones and to limit the amount of time they are used. Additionally, make it even better by playing with your children. You will see what they are doing and probably end up learning to laugh at yourself along the way.
And while we're thinking of video games, we cannot leave out educational apps. There are many, many different types of apps out there for smartphones and tablets. Whether you have an Android, Apple, or Windows phone, you simply have to search to find apps that are user-friendly and kid-friendly and academic-oriented. For the Android device, Google has Education Play that lists apps that only meet specific academic criteria. This is a great place to begin your search because many of the apps will be available on other platforms. My family, for example, typically uses Apple smart devices, but I usually do my research on the Google site first, and then I know that I can go to the App Store on iTunes and find that app. On Google Education, you can search by paid or free, or you can put in a specific term like CCSS if you want an app related to the Common Core. A good example of this is the Lumos Learning Step Up app that lets kids play math and English language arts quiz games on any smart device. It's listed as number 3 on the Google Education Play site when you search for Common Core, and then can be found on any device.
But parents, if you have the time to choose only one aspect to focus on this summer, the most important would be reading. It is the most critical way your child can be engaged and avoid the summer slide. It's important to know exactly what your child should be focusing on, though, when it comes to reading. First, make it fun. It can be hard enough to get kids to read during the summer, and you want to encourage it. Now might be the time to let your child read that book that interests them instead of the one that pushes them. Reading for fun not only interests your child, but it can help build their confidence as well. Additionally, you want to help your child focus on fluency. If a child sounds out all of the words on a page, they are not really comprehending what they are reading. A fluent reader can read fluidly. Help your child choose books that are age-appropriate using one of the most common and easy-to-remember methods, the 5-finger rule. In this case, have your child open the book to a random page and begin reading aloud, holding up one finger for each word they cannot say or do not know. If they have more than 5 fingers visible, the book is probably too hard.
But reading goes beyond books. There are so many other ways your child can read. Magazines are a great way to keep kids connected to learning, and they encourage so many other different activities as well. National Geographic Kids, Ranger Rick, and American Girl are just a few examples. Then, as silly as it may sound, children can also read the backs of cereal boxes and billboards to work on reading confidence and fluency. And they end up learning new things along the way. And thinking completely outside of the box, your children can also read when singing karaoke. Reading the words as they flash across the screen is a great way to build fluency, and your kids will never know they are learning. You can also turn the closed captioning on when you're watching a TV show to encourage literacy and reading fluency.
Now that we've reviewed all the different ways to keep your child academically engaged this summer, let's focus on some of the biggest practical tips you can follow to ensure their struggle with the summer slide is as small as possible. First, keep it fun. Summer is a time of breaks and playing, excitement and fun, and learning should be no exception. And while you are having fun, be sure to take advantage of opportunities. Learning does not always have to be scheduled. In fact, some of the best times are when you aren't planning to learn. Finally, if you set up any sort of system with your children, make sure you reward them and don't punish. In other words, let them earn points for completing tasks, and once they earn enough, they work towards something. But do not punish them for not completing a task. That will defeat the purpose of having fun. I know we covered a lot of material today, so we want to offer the opportunity to ask any questions. You can use the Raise the Hand feature, and Mrs. Adams can unmute your line. Or you can type your question into the chat box, and we will be able to read it from there.
So we'll go ahead and give you a moment at this time, if you have a question, to go ahead and type it into the chat box if you'd like. Or you can, again, as Ms. Torres said, you can use the Raise the Hand feature, and we can unmute your line, and you can ask your question that way. And I know there's something being typed in now, so we'll wait for that to post. And the question here was, can you talk a little bit more about rewarding the students? And absolutely, that's actually something that I used in my household, particularly more when my daughter was younger than she is now. But what we did is we had a chart, and over the summer, she would place check marks when she had, done certain things, read a book, wrote a letter to her grandmother, we had certain categories that she was able to fill in. And once she reached certain milestones, then she was able to pick something. So, for example, once she achieved 5 of the activities, then maybe she got to pick where we were going for dinner for the night or what our family activity would be for the evening. And this was a great way to encourage her. She liked being able to fill out her chart. She liked seeing the check marks there and be able to work for something. And it also engaged her without me constantly having to harp on her or make the learning seem negative. So that was a great question. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions coming in? Or Ms. Torres, I don't know if you see any other questions.
I don't see any other questions.
Okay, wait, I think I've got one more.
Okay.
And this one's on reading fluency. The question is, can you help explain what reading fluency is? Absolutely. Again, as Ms. Torres said earlier when we were on that slide, reading fluency is the ability for your students to be able to recognize the words and read them quickly and fluidly so that they can begin to comprehend. Sounding out words and using strategies for breaking down words that are unfamiliar is a fabulous skill that your child should have and something that you should encourage at home. But they also should be able to read very, very fluidly if they're going to improve their comprehension as well. And I think those are our only questions. Again, we want to thank you for joining us today, and we would like to invite you as the Lumos teachers begin the first of 3 summer sessions for helping students beat the summer brain drain. So we're going to help your kids be engaged also. The first session is June 24th, the second session is July 29th, and the third session is August 26th. If you've not yet registered your child, go to lumoslearning.com and select the Parents tab for more information. And also, just thanking you again for being here today, we are going to be sending out an email link to a survey for the actual webinar. Any feedback that you give, we do this at the end of every one of our webinars, and it's always great as we try and plan for future webinars and try to meet your needs. So again, we'd like to thank you for being here with us today, and we enjoyed having you here and hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day.